So Chance the Rapper has a new album out. It's been a long time since he's dropped something that I think has been even close to Coloring Book, and I think this album probably is along that same vibe, along that same vein. And I listened to one of the songs that popped up in my release radar on Spotify. I love that playlist because it just fills me with all the new music that's from the artists I follow. I love it. It's great. But one of the songs that is on that new album that really caught my attention was a song called Letters. And Letters is a song where Chance kind of takes a similar writing style to the Apostles, and he starts writing. It's 4 verses, which in a rap song is not as common as it used to be, especially by the same artist without a feature or something like that. And I thought verses 2 and 4 were the most compelling. 1 and 3, I guess, were a little bit more personal and stuff that I'm not in a place to talk to and to talk about, and I'm not going to. But I did think that verse 2 and verse 4 were super interesting. And so in verse 2, it's really interesting. He has this letter to the megachurch. It says, "Dear megachurch, I hope this letter finds you, for I do. Fund a new building to hide you. I'll still be behind you. Elaborate theatrics to blind you. Nickel and dime you, but I knew. I watched you worship idols, brand a Bible, sell it for double, brandish rifles, curse and libel, withhold shelters from people for survival. First ladies walking around with furs and titles. Watch you spit in a man's face and call it God, but when it's really on your dogma, it's silent Bob. You just take them government checks and smile and nod. I rebuke you in the name of the child of God. I boil a pot of living water till it's scalding hot and pour it on the altar of the false fallen gods. This means the church and the state. I'm here to separate. Y'all think I'm finna play with any? Matter of fact, I'm on my way." Yes, I do music, so it's easier for me to like rap it than to do that. And hopefully you can see the lyrics that are here. But I do think like he's not wrong in a lot of instances, man. Mega churches in general, not even just big churches, especially those, we got a lot of things wrong. We have a lot of things that we got to look introspectively on. And I think what Chance is doing, Chance has dropped some like parallel Christian music. And I say parallel meaning like he talks about Christianity, he claims Christianity, he doesn't really live it out super well. And at least from what I've seen. And but I do think he's posing some really interesting things. There's some clear connections he's making, like when he's talking about withholding shelter for survival. He's literally talking about what happened with Joel Osteen in Houston when there was all the flooding. They closed the church down instead of opening it up for people. I mean, this was the old Houston Rockets Stadium, right? Like it's a massive place, and he closed it down, said that it was unsafe or whatever, and that turned out to not be true. And it really poses the question of like, what is the church's role in these times? Because if people are looking to the church to be an example, and we're kind of literally shutting the doors on them in this instance, there's some problems with that. He talks even about Mike Todd. This isn't like confirmed, but I just, as soon as I heard it, the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, he's talking about Mike Todd. Mike Todd went viral for spitting in mud and wiping it on somebody's eyes. Granted, it turned out to be like his brother. Still super weird though. And you know, so when he's talking about that, he's talking about kind of the influence that megachurch pastors have and hold over their congregations and things like that. And then when it's time to actually talk about some of the things that they believe, it's silence. Like I get that. And there's this righteous anger that Chance clearly has in verse 2. That he's out to get some questions answered. And I think they are valid, man. Like if the church isn't going to step up, if the church is going for shock value over holding true to biblical truths, man, we've got some issues. We have some issues. And I think he's completely valid in talking about some of these things, bringing some of these things up. It should make us uncomfortable, especially as believers listening to this. for him to be posing some of these questions, because I think a lot of them are fair. And I think we do have to be just really careful that we don't put mission over people, that we don't try to prioritize possessions over people's safety and their well-being. We have to remember what the early church stood for, what the church of Acts stood for, what our early church fathers believed and believed the church to be. Because if we start to build enterprises, if we start to build businesses off of this thing, we can get this thing super twisted. And I think that's what Chance is really kind of bringing up here and just saying, hey man, there's a lot of things that are whack, especially with mega churches, but even just American churches in general. You go back down to verse 4, and I'm not going to read the whole thing like I did with the other one, but he kind of addresses the church, and he says, hey, you're bruised, you're broken, you're abused. Like there's the body of Christ, and all of these things that he's been talking about at this point for 3 verses are true. Like I said, there's a lot of valid claims that he makes, a lot of valid questions here. But what he's saying here is the church needs to remember its roots, remember why it was fashioned and created, who created it. It's obviously Jesus who established the church. He's saying there's a lot of work to do to take care of some of the things that we're facing, some of the things that people are going through. The church needs to step up. And ultimately, I think it leaves it on a really positive note, because he's saying the church can do better, and I just wish that you would do better. And I really appreciate that, because I think the church does have its fair share of problems. There's a lot of things that we could talk about. There's a lot of things that are happening within, especially the American church, that make even somebody like me, who I'm a pastor, I've been a Christian my whole life. Like, I even can scratch my head and go, hey man, what's going on here? But I think it's valid, and I think that we can't forget how beautiful the body of Christ actually is, how beautiful the church actually is when we return to our purpose and our function and why Jesus established the church, how he established us. I think that is such a key to remember for our life, and really as we're kind of navigating some of the things that we're going through as the American church. It's really important for us to remember that even though we're bruised, even though we're broken, even though we got a lot of things that are messed up, we got some wild people saying some wild things, the church is ultimately still beautiful, and it's still a place that is the best vehicle to have an encounter with the Lord. And I think that is so true here. And so I really appreciated what he had to say. I think it's a great song. Like I said, the album is kind of returning back a little bit to his roots, and I appreciate that. And so let me know. Go listen to the song if you haven't. But if you have listened to it, man, tell me what you think about it. Tell me how these verses made you feel, especially if you're a Christian, if you're in a church, if you're a believer. Let me know kind of your thoughts. If you're an unbeliever, are some of these things valid? Is the church doing enough? Man, I think that these are all super valid questions, super valid things to be bringing up, even if I still am going to, do everything I can to love the church and to love the world around it. I think we can still work on some things. And so that's kind of my perspective. I want to hear from you, though. Let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the next video.